I left my husband with cancer for a man at work. I tried to take our son, but he chose his father. My lover promised a new life, then vanished with all the money, leaving me ruined and erased from the family I betrayed. I abandoned my husband with cancer. I write it and it burns me to admit it. It is not a case I read on the internet, it was me. It all began when I was 33 years old, and that was when he was diagnosed with a lymphoma that was consuming him. We met at 17, we became parents at 18, and he worked like an animal to give us everything. He was not perfect, but he was good, kind, dedicated, and protective. He bought us a house, we saved, we thought we had won. And then the cancer came, chemos, vomiting, fever. I saw him fall apart in front of me while I tried to keep my composure for our son. We did not sleep, we did not laugh, we just survived. And no matter how hard I tried, I felt more and more dead inside. I started to leave the house more, to look for distractions. I offered to work part-time in an office to help with the bills, but the truth was that I wanted to escape, to breathe, not to watch the man who once promised me everything die. There I met someone, a colleague. It was not love, not even attraction. It was someone who listened to me, who told me that I still had the right to smile, who asked me if I slept well or ate enough, who looked at me like no one had in years. I resisted at first. I swear I did, but one day I stopped. The love did not disappear overnight. It eroded like an abandoned house that no one takes care of, like a silence that grew longer and longer in the same bed. Until I talked about it with D, I told him I could not take it anymore, that I felt trapped, that it was not fair to either of us. He cried, he begged me, he told me he understood it was being difficult, but that we needed each other, that we were a family, that he begged me not to abandon him. And I did it anyway. I tried to take my son with me. He was 15 years old. He looked at me crying and said, "How can you leave him now?" I did not know what to tell him. He asked me to stay with his father. I let him. I respected it. I left. And that is how it all began. A silent separation, a broken home, a love buried before its time. People tell me I am a bitch for having done it, and maybe I am. But at that moment, the only thing I felt was that if I did not escape, I was going to die too, and I escaped from him, from my son, from myself. A small word, but loaded with weight. I thought that by escaping from that house, from that illness, from that pain, I was going to find myself. Instead, I got completely lost. I went with him, my lover, convinced that it was love or at least something that would get me out of the pit. We met at the office where I started working to help with expenses, although in reality I just wanted to breathe without the smell of a hospital. He was charming, attentive. He told me that I did not have to carry someone else's suffering, that I had a right to live. I wanted to believe him because if I did not, I would have to accept that I was abandoning the man who gave me everything for someone who only offered me an illusion. With the money from the divorce, my fair share according to the agreement, and some savings, we started a business together, a coffee shop. He said it would be our life project, a symbol of our new story. And at the beginning, it was. We painted walls, designed the logo, hung pictures of us in the kitchen. I felt alive for the first time in a long time. I did not cry at night. I even started to convince myself that everything I had done made sense. But that happiness had an expiration date. The first signs were subtle. He would arrive late. He would make vague excuses. He started to control how much money I spent because now we had to be careful. We no longer talked about dreams, only about debts. He no longer told me I was beautiful, only that I was stressed. One night we had a big argument. I confronted him for not showing up at the coffee shop all day, and his response left me frozen. "You should be grateful that someone like me picked you up when you were a broken woman running from a corpse." He said it with contempt, as if he had done me a favor. I locked myself in the bathroom and cried, not only for his words, but because for the first time I realized what everyone thought and that maybe he was never different. A few days later he disappeared, literally. He did not come home to sleep, he did not answer his cell phone, he did not come back to the coffee shop. I thought something bad had happened to him, that he was in the hospital, that he had been robbed. Anything. The truth was worse. I went to check the accounts, empty. The investment funds, empty. Even the joint cards we opened were in the negative. He had taken off with everything, the business, the money, my supposed new life. I reported him. It was useless. The police barely listened to me. Without proof of fraud, it is civil abandonment, they said. The coffee shop lasted one more week until the suppliers came to collect. I had no way to pay. I sold the machines, the furniture, the memories, everything that was once ours. I moved into a rented room. A bed, a microwave, a broken mirror, and walls that sweated moisture. I ate bread with tea, I slept in fear, and for the first time, I began to wonder if this was the punishment I deserved. I became addicted to looking for signs of my son or my ex on social media. Nothing. Absolute silence. As if they had erased everything I once was. Until one day a friend shared a photo, a march against cancer. People with t-shirts that said, "I survived." And there he was. Thinner, older, but standing. My ex-husband had beaten cancer, and I did not even know it. That day I cried on my knees, alone, with my hands trembling. Not for him, but for me, for everything I had thrown away, for having lost the man who gave everything, even when he was dying. Then I decided I would go back to ask for forgiveness, to try to get something back. Even if they spat on me, even if they hated me. I went to his city, to his house, I knocked on the door, and what happened left me more broken than I had ever imagined. I imagined that moment 1,000 times during the bus trip. How would he see me? What would I say to him? If he would cry, if he would let me speak, if there would still be something, a spark, a crack of love that could withstand the disaster I left behind. I invented conversations, tears, hugs, even laughter. None of those scenes were real. The house was the same, only better kept. The garden was trimmed, the curtains were clean, the facade was painted. It was as if someone was living well without me. I knocked on the door with the same hand I had signed the divorce with. Seconds passed. Then steps. Then it opened and there was D, thinner, but strong, with his skin a little more weathered. Gray hairs at his temples, but with that look he always had when he was tired of everything. Hard, but calm. "Hello," I said. He did not respond. "Can I come in?" He shook his head. "I just want to talk. There is nothing left to talk about." His voice was not hostile. It was the opposite. Serene, detached, impenetrable. "I know I did wrong. I know I have no right, but I found out you were better and..." My voice broke, and I just wanted to tell you that I am glad, that you are alive, that you are still here. Silence. I made a mistake. I left at the worst moment, but it was not because I did not love you, it was because I did not know how to go on. I was dying with you. I felt like I was disappearing. And you solved it by disappearing for real. He said that sentence. Cold, precise, relentless. I was with someone else. I know. And it was a mistake. He betrayed me. I lost everything. I was left alone. But I realized that you were the love of my life, that none of that was worth it, that I made a mistake. And now that you are well, that we are alive, maybe we can still. Do you think that after everything you can come back as if nothing happened? Not as if nothing happened, I said, crying. As someone who has repented. As someone who wants to repair. Even if you do not forgive me, even if you do not love me, at least for our son. Our son, he interrupted me, was the one who held me up while I was dying. He was the one who helped me walk when the chemo was breaking my legs. He was the one who read to me out loud while you were living your new life. I wanted to say something, but the words would not come out. You chose to leave. We chose to go on and we did it without you. There is no way to start over. Yes, he said. And we already did, but without you. And he closed the door on me gently, without yelling, without insults, and it was 1,000 times worse. I stayed there with my forehead resting on the wood, not knowing how much time had passed. It had not been a fight, it had been an emotional funeral. He had already buried me. I walked away without direction. My feet hurt, my eyes, my soul, but I still had a small spark of hope, my son. Maybe he would, maybe he had not completely erased me yet. And so I looked for him in the only place where he could not avoid me, his school. I waited for him outside like a shadow without a man. I did not know if he would still recognize me immediately. I did not know if he would come with friends, with a backpack, if he would ignore me or run away. But when I saw him, I knew it was him, taller, stronger, more of an adult, with the same look as his father, tempered, serious, contained. When he saw me, he stopped. He did not smile. He just slowed down a bit, as if refusing to run, as if refusing to seem excited to see me. But he did not leave. He came closer. "What are you doing here?" he asked me. "I just wanted to see you. To talk. If you have time." He did not respond. We walked in silence. I invited him to a coffee shop. Not one of those chain ones, but a local, intimate one, the kind I would have liked to have if life had been different. He ordered a tea. I ordered nothing. I had a lump in my throat bigger than any hunger. "Why did you come back?" he asked me directly. "Because I miss you? Because I saw your dad and he closed the door on me." "I understand, but you. You are my son and I wanted to talk to you, even if you do not want to see me." He nodded slowly. Not with empathy, with resignation. "And what do you expect me to say?" "Honestly, nothing. But if you listen to me, that is enough." He took a deep breath. I left him. I left because I could not do it anymore, because I felt like I was sinking. Taking care of your dad, working, holding everything together, and also pretending I was fine was too much. I did not know how to do it. I felt alone, scared. "And that is why you left with another man." I swallowed. It was not so sudden like that. I met him, he listened to me. I felt alive again. I thought it was love, but I was wrong. He betrayed me. He robbed me. He left me worse off than before, and that is when I realized I had lost you both and that it was not worth it. Silence. "And then you came back," he said. As if nothing happened. Not as if nothing happened. As someone who made a mistake, who knows it, who accepts it, but who still loves her son more than anything in the world. He looked at me, and that look was a mirror. There was no hatred, only disappointment. "Dad told me you could write to me if you wanted, but he did not want any more visits. I told him that if you wanted to, I would see you." "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you for that. I did not do it for you, I did it for me, because I needed to close this story too." That broke me a little more. "Mom," he said to me, and I felt a pang hearing that title that no longer seemed to be mine. "I cried a lot when you left. I thought it was my fault, that if I had insisted more you would have stayed. Then I realized it was not like that." "No, of course not," I interrupted. "I know, I understand now, but I also understand that you left because you could, because you chose not to stay. I was in pain, Dad was too, but he stayed." Pause. He never stopped being a father, not even when his body would not respond anymore. I had to bathe him, feed him, change his sheets when he vomited. I had to be an adult before my time, but I did it because he would have stayed for me. "And you did not." I started to cry without holding back. "Do you hate me?" "No, not anymore, but I do not admire you, and I never want you to get back with him." "And with me? Can we have something, anything?" He thought and gave me the most honest blow anyone can give, maybe someday. "But do not expect me to defend you, because even though I do not hate you, I do not respect you yet either." He got up. He left me alone, with his half-finished tea and an empty chair in front of me. And I finally understood that there are things that cannot be recovered, not with tears, not with love, not with time. That was what I thought I needed. Just that. A little more time to repair what I broke, to show that I could still be a part of their lives, that I could still build something, even if it was small. After that conversation with my son, I clung to a desperate idea. If he still spoke to me, even with distance, there was still something I could hold on to. A right, an opportunity, a bond that could not be erased just because I made mistakes. So I made a decision, to start a legal process. Not to punish anyone, not to take anything from anyone, just to have the possibility of seeing him more, of sharing with him, of maybe being his mother again. Even if it was drop by drop. I looked for a lawyer. I told him everything, absolutely everything. I did not try to justify myself. I just wanted someone, at least once, to listen to me without condemning me from the first word. He looked at me seriously, without showing much, and said, "It is difficult, but we will try." We filed a request to review the custody agreement. I wanted visits, moments, whatever. Crumbs were enough for me, something that would tell me there was still a place for me in that story. But when the hearing came, I knew the trial was not for my son, it was a trial against my past. D was there, impeccable, serene, but with an expression so distant, so cold, that it made me feel invisible. And then his lawyer began to speak. He did not shout, he did not dramatize, he just stated facts. My client was diagnosed with cancer. At his most vulnerable stage, his wife abandoned him. She left with another man. She tried to take the son they have in common, who refused. Since then, the gentleman has been solely responsible for the care, maintenance, and education of the minor. The lady, on the other hand, formed a new relationship, used the marital assets to start a failed business with her new partner, and disappeared from both their lives for over a year. There was no emotional support, no financial support, no sustained contact. The request she presents today responds, by all indications, to the failure of that external relationship, not to a genuine concern for the well-being of the minor. And every word was another nail. My lawyer tried to respond. He spoke of mental health, of regret, of how remorse is also part of being human. But nobody was listening. The judge only asked one question: what is the minor's opinion? And there, with an almost surgical coldness, DS lawyer read, the minor states that he is willing to maintain voluntary contact with his mother, but he does not wish for his current environment to be modified. He does not want imposed visits or shared custody. He asks that his decision be respected. And with that, the judge looked down, took notes, and said that there was no legal or emotional basis to change the current situation. I did not lift my head for the rest of the proceedings. I only listened to DS' steady breathing, like someone who already knew it would all turn out this way, like someone who felt neither satisfaction nor revenge. Only closure. When we left, my lawyer walked with me in silence. At the end, he just said, "They listened to you. But it is not enough anymore." And he was right. I went back to the room I rent. I closed the door, I took off my shoes, I looked at myself in the cracked mirror that barely holds its frame, and for the first time in a long time, I did not cry because I had no more tears left. And then I knew. I was not going to get back what I lost, not by law, not by love, not by guilt. All I had left was to write, not to convince anyone, but to explain why. After all, I still believe I deserve a second chance. Sometimes I think of those words as if they were blasphemy, as if saying them made me more miserable, more unconscious, more vile. But I am going to say it even if they hate me. After everything I did, I believe I deserve a second chance. Not with them, not with him, not with my son, maybe not even with myself, but with life, with the right to breathe again without feeling that everything I am is a mistake hanging from my shoulders. I am not justifying what I did. I abandoned him. Yes, I left when he was sick. I left my son alone with his dying father. I fell in love with another man while mine was fighting to live. I did it, I do not deny it, but I also cared. I also cried. I also dragged myself emotionally for months before making the decision that everyone now uses to define me. I was dying too, not physically, but inside. I woke up every day with fear. I fell asleep every night feeling that I had no right to complain because I was not the one with cancer. And that is something no one ever forgave me for, having had the audacity to break without being the main victim. When D got sick, the whole house revolved around his pain. And I understand that, but nobody looked to the side. Nobody saw that I was also falling apart, that I had become a nurse, mother, emotional support, financial provider, companion in tears, all at the same time. And that there was never a moment where I could scream, "I cannot do this anymore," without it sounding selfish. And yes, I abandoned him. And worse, for someone else. It was a mistake. Absolutely. It destroyed me more than I ever imagined. It left me in emotional and financial ruin. It made me see that I left for something that was not love, but escape. But even after paying that whole price, nobody believes I have the right to lift my head, that I have the right to come back, to knock on the door, to ask if there is still a space for me. I myself hesitated to do it for months, but guilt did not rebuild me, it only paralyzed me, and one day I understood that eternal remorse is not justice either. It is a prison that serves no one. My son does not want me back. I accept it. My ex closed the door on me without insults, without shouts, only with that devastating piece of someone who no longer needs you. I respect it. And still, I feel I have something more to give. Not to them, not as a mother, not as a wife, but as a woman, as a person, as someone who broke and had to learn to rebuild herself without anyone saving her. Because if I learned anything, it is that nobody rescues you when you are the villain of the story. There are no safety nets, no handkerchiefs, no understanding. There is only silence, rejection, and the constant echo of your own mistakes. Today, I live alone in an apartment I can barely afford, with jobs that are barely enough. I do not have a partner or close friends or the respect of my son. And despite that, I am here, standing, writing this not to ask to be loved again, but for someone to read these words and understand that sometimes there are no heroes or villains, just humans rotten with fear. Yes, I know. I left at the worst moment. I made a mistake, but I also tried. I also gave everything until I had nothing left. And if you who are reading this are thinking that I do not deserve anything, that I screwed myself over, maybe you are right, but I also tell you this. Who has not wanted to run away at some point? Who has not dreamed of leaving everything behind when the weight becomes unbearable? I did not have the tools to resist. I tried, but I failed. I left, I sank, and yet here I am writing, fighting not to disappear completely, because even those of us who fail deserve redemption. Not from others, sometimes not even from family, but from ourselves. I do not want to go back to the life I had, it no longer exists. I just want to know that what I lived, what I suffered, what I learned served for something, so as not to repeat it, not to give up again, not to hide anymore. I am not a victim. I am not a heroine. I am that uncomfortable figure that nobody wants to be. The woman who made an unforgivable decision and still wants to live with them without being defined only by that. And if you are waiting for me to say that I hate myself, I am sorry, I do not. Not because I do not regret it, but because if I hate myself, if I deny even myself, then everything I went through was for nothing. So yes, after all, I believe I deserve a second chance. And if you think I do not, you have your right, but I also have mine.